is the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show with your hosts Maurice, Patton, and Wade Neely. Proudly presented each week by our friends at the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans, don't let fans drive drunk.
Welcome into the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show presented by 10 Pin Alley, Eat, Play, Party, and also by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans don't let fans drive drunk. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton, getting you set for week 10 of the high school football season here in Southern Middle Tennessee. Man, it feels like just yesterday we were getting started.
It gets faster and faster every year, and here we are. A lot of big games, playoff berths kind of hanging in the balance for some of our squads, and we've reached that time.
It is that time. Yeah, we will take a look back at the week that was in week 9 as we continue to be affected a bit by fall break with some schools taking their open dates. It was a shorter slate of games last week than typical. We'll take care of that this coming week, though, because everybody is in action, and including a Thursday night affair. So we will be full out this week, and we will get you ready for it right here on the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show when we come back.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
Hello, I'm Rick Whitley.
And I'm Daniel Pollard from Jones and Lang Sporting Goods. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the many years of support. Since 1966, Jones and Lang has been locally owned and operated and supplying teams from T-ball to college. Stop by and see what we can do for you. We offer a wide variety of services from silk screening and embroidery to our custom trophy and awards department.
We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturday, 9 to noon. Remember, Jones and Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
He shoots, and he scores!
Welcome to JHA Company, your trusted scholastic partner. We continue to serve schools with yearbooks, letter jackets, and graduation regalia, but now we offer so much more. Our school photography division offers high-quality images that capture the spirit and energy of your students and staff. Let us help build your identity, creating a cohesive look that represents your school's values and traditions. Our e-commerce solutions make it easy for schools to manage and sell their branded apparel online. Let's work together to make every school year unforgettable. Visit our website or contact us today to learn more. JHA Company, celebrating achievements, building identities, and creating memories.
Welcome back into the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show as we head into week 10 of the high school football season here in Southern Middle Tennessee. We're brought to you by 10 Pin Alley, Eat, Play, Party, and by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans don't let fans drive drunk. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Week 9, again, the slate was a little short relative to a typical week, but we had some pretty good ball games, and we'll start with a big Region 5 2A matchup over at Mount Pleasant. And the host Tigers were the number 2 team in that region, taking on league leader East Hickman. East Hickman got off to a great start. Mount Pleasant had to shift into chase mode and couldn't quite get there, dropping a 24-22 decision for their third straight loss all of a sudden. After a 5-0 start, the Tigers sitting at 5-3 overall and 3-2 in region play. Part of, as we will see later, a heck of a log jam for second place in that region.
Loaded in there.
Yeah. Again, Mount Pleasant battled back from an 18-0 halftime deficit to get this thing close, but just could not get over the hump. Sophomore quarterback J.P. Easterling ran for a score, threw for one, but again, the Tigers have had some second half comebacks over the course of this season, but East Hickman stifled this one to stay atop the region. And again, Mount Pleasant dropping into a logjam for second place. And this next couple of weeks is going to be interesting for the Tigers from that standpoint.
Yeah, and this is one, we said that it would be a great game, and it kind of delivered, but a tale of two halves, it sounded like. And during the broadcast, we made mention of the fact that, it was a lopsided score favoring East Hickman, but props to Mount Pleasant for at least picking itself up off the mat as much as it could and trying to battle back. That is a tough East Hickman team. We're learning even still as we move along. So that's a loss that will sting. And you wish you would have played better, certainly in the first half, but it's one that is made a little easier by the fact that we know that East Hickman continues to play well.
Absolutely. Columbia Central coming into this matchup with Franklin County last week, looking to kind of establish itself offensively. Well, they did so. 48-7, the final. Benefited from the play of freshman safety Jamari Hall, who had 3 interceptions, took the first one back for a touchdown to get the Lions on the board. But they did it in all phases of the game. Opened the second half with a 95-yard kickoff return for a touchdown by Kamarian Frierson. Justice Haggard scored a touchdown. Burton Moore threw for a couple. I mean, they did what you're supposed to do against a winless team like Franklin County.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, and it's also what I like to see because this was your best chance with 2 tough road games to come for Columbia to kind of raise the bar and, fine-tune some things because it will be grueling down the stretch and hopefully into the postseason. So good to see them take care of business, especially, you got some scores mixed in from other facets, defense and special teams, but good to see the offense kind of take care of business too after a couple of rough outings the previous 2 weeks.
Big time. Big win for Central there, 48-7 against visiting Franklin County in Region 5-5A action. Independence, coming off of its open week during fall break, picked up where they left off following a 37-0 win against Overton in Region 6-6A action. They go out to West Williamson County, pick up a 30-0 win at Fairview.
Good win for them, and we broke it down on the show last week, and, we talked about would the numbers kind of play a factor, and, hard to really tell because Fairview didn't have much to offer in terms of offense. Good result for Independence. Maybe a chance for them to kind of get things going. They seem to be playing with a little more confidence. And, 1-2 in region play. I mean, a good win versus Fairview. You got some tough ones coming up, but it's good to at least right the ship. And, back-to-back shutouts for those guys who continue to, prove that the first couple weeks of the season was maybe a benefit of their ridiculously tough schedule.
Absolutely. I like I like the move by Scott Stidham to open the game. Fairview was set to receive the opening kickoff. Independence goes onside.
Ooh.
Lucas Penland scoops it, scores it from 50 yards out.
Man.
Yeah. That's setting the tone on the road right there. So major kudos to Scott Stidham right there for that one. In Region 6-6A play as well, Summit, which had dropped 6 straight after winning its season opener against Spring Hill, took out a lot of frustration against visiting Overton. 48-7 final there.
Yeah, good win versus Overton, who we talked on the show that this would be a game you got to go out and win, and to kind of keep things rolling for Summit and kind of give yourself a little bit of sign to close the season on a positive note. But we also said this is a dangerous Overton team, so the fact that they win the game as lopsided as they did was nice to see, because, again, kind of like Columbia, it means they took care of business on virtually every phase of the game, in my opinion.
Mason McElhaney, the senior quarterback, threw for a pair of touchdowns, ran for a pair. They also had a pick six from Aiden Britton. Scored all 48 points in the opening half.
Whew, man, yeah. To your point a moment ago, setting the tone early, that is commanding the game and really not leaving much room for doubt. And, we've seen some teams and we got some schools in our region, our coverage area, that have done that this week. Some of those in non-region games, but to do it in a region game is especially impressive.
Absolutely. Speaking of non-region, we told you this was going to be a good one. It was so good that 4 quarters weren't enough. Summertown 35, Richland 28 in overtime.
Crazy game. Caught the tail end of it by some miracle. Giles County got done before Richland Friday night, and for good reason, because, they go to overtime. And Summertown with a very impressive win versus a Richland team that had been flying high. And even though it is a non-region game, that's one that really felt like a region game, and both teams desperately wanted to get the win. Richland, on the other hand, tough loss for them, and they kind of only have themselves to blame with 5 turnovers, including one on the final play in overtime that takes away possession for them and gives the win to Summertown, who had already scored. So one of those games that was a sign of what's to come in the playoffs, potentially for both of these teams. Saw some good efforts from a couple players, including Quint Smith, who was back, doing what Quint Smith does. He's back on the ground. Jared Stahl had a nice game. And then Richland, it's hard not to come out of this game without citing the turnovers, because when if you have 1 or 2, that's one thing. But when you got 5, that's really frustrating. But props to them for even making it as close of a game, considering they gave it away 5 times.
Yeah. Summertown kind of needed this one, I think, just to kind of restore a little confidence.
Felt like it, yeah.
Maybe. Richland's going to be fine, I do believe. Another matchup of Region 5 1A versus Region 5 2A goes to the smaller school this time, as Eagleville edges Loretto 28-21.
This was one that went back and forth on who to pick last week, and man, it was a close game. Eagleville kind of seemingly controlled the game for the vast majority. Loretto was playing catch up all night, but kind of like we saw with Mount Pleasant, Loretto is capable of catching up, and just because you get a lead on them, they're not going to quit. And so that one kind of lives up to the billing. I'll be curious to see where those 2 schools go now, as you just mentioned Richland in Eagleville, and then Loretto's got to jump back into region play as well.
Loretto played this one without running back Nick McDowell.
That hurts. His name will be discussed here in a moment, but that hurts.
Certainly does not help. Region 5-5A action. Lawrence County drops a tough one to the juggernaut that is the Shelbyville Golden Eagles, 42-14. Shelbyville with the win there. Yeah,
tough break for Lawrence County. We had broke this one down last week, that this was kind of the last hurrah if you're Lawrence County, and sitting there now at 1-4 in region play. No postseason for them, but this was one that you hopefully would try to get up for, and they didn't. I know the score is not great, but they're still a quality football team, and they're a prideful program, so they at least kind of hung as tough as they could versus Shelbyville. And again, they are a really powerful team. Back to the drawing board for Lawrence County after missing the postseason again, but they've got a good little nucleus, and they've come a long way. Even sitting here at 2-6, there's been a lot of lean years the last couple, so steps in the right direction.
Yeah, we talked about Coach Marston kind of having that come to Jesus with them early in the year. I wonder if there was another one after this. He has a way of getting their attention, and it kind of makes it a week-to-week thing for the Wildcats. We'll see what they come out with here coming down the stretch. As you mentioned, the postseason is out of reach for them at this point, but still a lot to play for.
Still a lot to play for, and I mean, obviously you'd prefer to be in the hunt for the playoffs, but these can be some teachable moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get to send out your seniors in style potentially. You still have Franklin County on the schedule, and then you got a non-region game in your final game. So a chance to, close on a little positive note, send the seniors out in style, then also start building for the next couple of years.
Absolutely. Finally, as we mentioned in last week's show, speaking of taking care of business, Giles County 49, Community nothing.
Yeah, if you're worried about Giles kind of sleepwalking, that was out of the question pretty early. Giles got a 3-and-out and then quickly scored. A wild event, though, because we haven't talked about Caden Reinhardt as a standout rusher for Giles County. And that's for good reason, because he plays offensive line. But it was community senior night, but you would think that it was Giles County's senior night, as they stuffed Reinhardt in there for a 9-yard bruising touchdown. 7 different touchdown scorers overall, and 6 of them were seniors for GCHS.
Okay, hold up.
So they kind of stole their thunder.
So Giles County scored 7 touchdowns and 7 different guys scored them?
7 different scores. And, the lone, 5 of them were non-seniors. Pearson Collier, a junior, had one as well. But Jack Stafford had a touchdown. He's a linebacker that apparently moonlights as a running back, I guess. So they were kind of having fun, but they were able to have fun, to your original point, because they took care of business early, and that was a running clock. They even started winding it late in the second quarter.
That must have been something about the moon Friday night, because Jaravius Hall, defensive lineman Jaravius Hall, Indiana commit Jaravius Hall, scored a touchdown for Columbia Central in that Franklin County win as well.
It was big man appreciation night across the state of Tennessee, I suppose. As they had a great night offensively, did Giles County. And Caleb Oates, we mentioned it last week, similar script as this week. He did get a touchdown, but he was under 100 yards, but that was by design. They only ran him 9 times. And so the GCHS bruiser, the real running back, if you will, of all those guys, no disrespect, he got to rest a little bit. So a good win for Giles.
So we had some, as our friend Chip Walters likes to refer to them, thick sixes Friday night.
They had some good ones. And Reinhardt, man, they called the timeout right near the goal line, and the crowd kind of started going crazy. And when Reinhardt trotted out, you're thinking, okay, yeah, he's going to right guard just like usual. No. He puts a hand in the dirt. And, I mean, he shook off 2 tackles. He's a big fella, but he shook off 2 tackles to get into the end zone. Great photo in the Pulaski Citizen, courtesy of our friend Jamie Bedingfield, who has him stretching out for the touchdown there. It was a good night for Giles County.
There you go. Making memories.
Man, yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, when we come back here on the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show, we will take a look at our stat leaders offensively across the area coming out of Week 9, and we'll get you ready for Week 10, going through some matchups. So stay tuned when we come back.
Hello, I'm Rick Whitley.
And I'm Daniel Pollard from Jones and Lang Sporting Goods. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the many years of support. Since 1966, Jones and Lang has been locally owned and operated and supplying teams from T-ball to college. Stop by and see what we can do for you. We offer a wide variety of services, from silk screening and embroidery to our custom trophy and awards department.
We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturday, 9 to noon. Remember, Jones and Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Welcome to JHA Company, your trusted scholastic partner. We continue to serve schools with yearbooks, letter jackets, and graduation regalia. But now we offer so much more. Our school photography division offers high-quality images that capture the spirit and energy of your students and staff. Let us help build your identity, creating a cohesive look that represents your school's values and traditions. Our e-commerce solutions make it easy for schools to manage and sell their branded apparel online. Let's work together to make every school year unforgettable. Visit our website or contact us today to learn more. JHA Company, celebrating achievements, building identities, and creating memories.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue.
Welcome back to the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show, presented by 10 Pin Alley Eat, Play, Party, and by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans don't let fans drive drunk. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Before we get into the Week 10 matchups, let's take a look at our individual offensive stat leaders across the area coming out of Week 9. We'll start with our rushing leaders, where, stop me if you've heard this, Monte Baldwin of Columbia Academy is our top rusher. The Bulldogs were off this past weekend, but Monte upward of 1,200, almost 1,300 yards here through 8 games for Columbia Academy, and has pretty much been the straw that stirs their offensive drink. 1,256 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns, averaging nearly 7 yards a carry. And, you know, we're starting to hear Mr. Football buzz. People are starting to tout their candidates and that kind of thing. And if you have a vote in Division 2A, I don't want to tell you what to do, but I would certainly take a good hard look at this young man. He was a semifinalist last year, very well deserving, and just as deserving this time around.
Yeah, can't say enough good things about Monte and what he's done. I mean, Columbia Academy's offense is pretty good, even if you took him away. But he takes them to another level. He is an explosive player. He is very worthy of consideration for Mr. Football.
Caleb Oates went over the 1,000-yard mark this past weekend. He also has 12 touchdowns on the year. Again, we mentioned Nicholas McDowell did not play in Loretta's loss to Eagleville. And then you've got the Lawrence County duo of Carter Pettigrew and Ian Clayton rounding out your top 5 rushers here in the Southern Middle Tennessee area. There's the rest of them right there. And looking at the passing leaders now, Richland's Blaine Woodard still atop the yardage leaders. Had a tough night, as did the Raider offense as a whole, but still overall coming up on 1,500 passing yards, 13 touchdowns on the year. Numbers that, again, we've said it all year, but it deserves to continue to be said. I don't know when a Richland quarterback has put up those kind of numbers. Yeah,
and they're continuing to trust Woodard with their offense. He's well over 1,000 yards passing, and he's thrown a touchdown in every game but one this season. And he continues to play well. Did have 2 interceptions in the loss to Summertown in overtime Friday night. But I think Richland still continues to ride him because, he's been so fun to cover this season, as he kind of is a microcosm of what Richland has done. It's kind of been a revolution on the offensive side of the ball for the Raiders, and he's kind of the main focal point.
Xavier Randolph continues to grow up in that Giles County offense, 1,238 passing yards, 9 touchdowns.
He's looking great the last couple of weeks. 2 things on that. Number one, I mean, you can't mention it or you can't not bring it up, but I mean, the competition has not been the greatest the last couple of weeks, but you got to go out and execute. And number 2, they have not faced a pass rush like they saw against Lincoln County in a couple of weeks. If Randolph has time, he has been effective all year long. He's completing close to 60% of his passes. He's pitching it around. He's finding different targets. And he's growing up as a sophomore who kind of almost doesn't look like a sophomore at this point in the year.
Stephen Neves, Cordell Isaac, and Mason Tidwell also over the 4-digit plateau in passing yardage for Columbia Academy, Spring Hill, and Loretto. You can see the rest of the leaders right there. Going over to our receiving leaders, you mentioned Xavier Randolph pitching it around. He pitches it a lot to Kareem Bryant, and understandably so.
Yeah, Bryant has had a fantastic year after having not one but 2 quarterbacks throwing the ball last year in Johnny Jackson and Kamari Turner. He's found this rapport over the last couple of weeks with Randolph. They're going to him deep. Giles County is slowly starting to get the big play back into their arsenal, which had eluded them the first several weeks of the season. And Kareem has been that main beneficiary. He's a great route runner, and he's got good hands. He's doing it all for Giles County right now.
673 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns for the senior. Just north of him, Jake Sands continues to be the primary target for Blaine Woodard in Richland's offense. 656 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns for the Raiders.
Sands can go. Richland was really, really dangerous in that passing game with Sands' running mate, Aylin Kennedy, but they lost him a few weeks ago for the season. Sands hasn't slowed down, though. Now he's just kind of feasting in a more prominent role, taking care of business. They throw him in on some rushes as well. I mean, they get creative with putting the ball in his hands. He's gone over 100 yards in 3 games this season. And, man, he makes them – and for everything that Woodard does, it's also partially because of Sands being able to go up and grab it.
Harrison Brownlee, Corbin Reynolds, and Jackson Westbeld, all upwards of 400 receiving yards for Columbia Academy, Loretto, and Spring Hill. Brownlee and Westbeld with 8 touchdowns each. Corbin Reynolds with 6, and I'm sure all of those numbers will continue to increase as playoff situations loom for these teams. So there's the rest of your your receiving leaders there as well. Week 10, we are down to the final 2 weeks of the regular season, and we'll get it started on Thursday night as Loretto hosts Waverly in Region 5 2A action. This game has been moved from Thursday to Friday. Something to do with volleyball?
You know, not your most conventional line of thinking, but a chance to hypothetically support the Lady Mustangs, but also ensure you get a good crowd on Thursday night. That way you don't have to split duties if that were going to be the case in terms of picking and choosing which team to support.
Yeah, well, and Loretto to Murfreesboro, Murfreesboro to Loretto is not easy. I've done it.
Wouldn't want to do that by any stretch. So I understand. Kind of cool to see both teams potentially getting the shine, but also, but you're guaranteeing probably to get a good crowd on Thursday night versus a team that would probably be a tough sell on a Friday night if you had a championship volleyball matchup to choose from.
And kudos to Waverly for being, receptive to playing a day early, because this is a Tiger team that needs all the help it can get, with all due respect. 0-8 overall, 0-5 in region play. They've struggled. Loretto trying to get back over 500 after, again, that tough loss to Eagleville this past weekend. 4-4 overall, 3-2 in region action.
Yeah, Waverly has really up against it here. Don't know, presumably Loretto initiated the conversation about moving the game. So kudos to Waverly for being receptive to the idea, being willing to move it, but also they've got a really tough game, desperate for a win versus a Loretto team that suddenly is also desperate for wins and trying to close the season strong. It'll be a tough sled, I think, on Thursday night for Waverly coming into this one.
Also a tough task for host Independence. The Eagles 2-6 overall, 1-2 in Region 6A action, coming off again back-to-back wins over region rival Overton, and then Fairview wrapped around their fall break open day. But the Eagles are taking on Brentwood, 7-1 overall, 3-0 in region play, and the Bruins lost in week 2 to Brentwood Academy, 16-6, have not lost since. Yeah,
this, much like Waverly, this will be a tall order for Independence. The good news is, to your point a moment ago, you got some confidence, and that goes a long way at the high school football level. And if Independence is ever potentially primed to pull an upset, knock off Brentwood, this would be the week to do it. They're not going to be buzzing any more than they would have been coming into this game on Friday night.
No. And if you look back historically at this matchup, it has typically been of the nail-biter variety most years. So Independence may find a little something for Brentwood, particularly at home, because they've won these last 2 games. Both Overton and Fairview have been on the road, so they would like to keep up this good play and give the home crowd something to cheer about.
Yeah, added factor to that is now the home crowd has a little something to cheer about. It's your biggest game of the season thus far in terms of most meaningful, and you have the most confidence rolling in. So hopefully the crowd will come out and support them. And given the nature of the rivalry, maybe this ends up being a little closer than some folks might think. It should be a fun one.
Absolutely. In a non-region matchup, Columbia Central goes north and west to take on James Lawson. The Lions 5-3, coming off of back-to-back wins in region play against Spring Hill and Franklin County. James Lawson is 2-6. The Lightning, formerly Hillwood High School, by the way, they have lost 5 straight, including a overtime loss to Spring Hill. This Columbia Central team is, they've got something to play for, but they need a win right here.
Yeah, Columbia Central, even in a non-region capacity, you have to treat every game like a region game from here on out if you're Columbia Central. And this will be, I think, kind of an ugly game in the sense that you can't bank on Columbia's offense on a weekly basis just yet. Maybe they get it turned around in the final 2 weeks. But the good news is for them, they don't necessarily have to always bank on their offense. Their defense, and especially lately their special teams, have been a big enough factor. Lawson, I think, is maybe a little better than their record indicates. They're not great just yet, but give them another year or two with a little more seasoning. They've played some tough opponents lately as well. But, man, I still think Columbia Central, if they approach this game with the right mindset, will be in pretty good shape.
Absolutely. Columbia Academy has been off since their last loss, 45-7 to Nashville Christian. It was televised, so everybody kind of saw it. The Bulldogs itching to get back on the field. They are 5-3 overall, 2-1 in D2A Middle Region action as Mount Juliet Christian visits the Saints 4-4, 0-3.
Yeah, and this to me, after everything you just said, after kind of getting embarrassed on TV and having the big momentum of Nashville Christian rolling in and the big game aura, you kind of get embarrassed. This has got to be the game after sitting with it for a week that I feel like Columbia Academy kind of comes out and restores a little order. Don't even know a ton about Mount Juliet Christian. They played some tough teams. They played most of the same teams that Columbia Academy has played. So they've experienced some similar results at times, but I think Columbia Academy, with that extra time to sit with this one, plays to their advantage in this showdown.
Exactly. Mount Pleasant goes on the road to a Hickman County team. Speaking of struggling, Region 5 2A matchup, the Tigers, again, 5-3 overall, but those 3 have come in a row here over their last 3 games, 3-2 in league play. The host Bulldogs, 2-6 overall, 1-4 in league play.
Yeah, this is going to be a interesting game, and kind of as we move along, this is where I've kind of been talking about the psyche of teams and kind of where they sit and how they kind of fit into the fold. And this is no more than right here at the end of the season. I'm anticipating a good game. I think it'll be a fun one when these 2 squads get ready on Friday.
It needs to not be too good for Mount Pleasant, to be honest. Mount Pleasant, Summertown, Loretto, Lewis County are all 3-2 in the region. They're all behind East Hickman. 4 teams go to the postseason. One of those 4 ain't.
Yeah, this is the season where the playoff format is especially cruel, right? You have a log jam of squads sitting there at 3-2, and Harpeth is at 2-3, looking out, saying, hey, we're not they got to feel we're especially rough, right? They're like, man, we're not a bad team, and we're not even in this big conversation here. This has been a juggernaut of a region from start to finish, and I really don't necessarily have a clue other than East Hickman, who presume is going to take care of business these last 2 weeks. They will win, but other than that, I have no clue, and I'm not going to attempt to bust out the tiebreakers just yet.
Oh, no. Again, Hickman County's 2-6 overall, 1-4 in region play, but those 2 games, those 2 wins have come in their last 2 against Cheatham County and against Waverly. Now, neither Cheatham County nor Waverly has won a game, but again, they went out and took care of business in those 2 games to get 2-6. So Mount Pleasant needs to be on their P's and Q's.
Got to be on their P's and Q's. Mount Pleasant has officially lost the right to overlook teams at this point. They had that right earlier in the year.
They really did.
They've lost it.
And I think they exercised.
They probably cashed in maybe even a couple of times, but they cannot do that anymore and their goals are, the region championship is out the window, but your playoff seeding is still right there for the taking, and your goals are there if you go out and execute. And you got to do that again versus Hickman County. Again, you can't afford to take any team lightly at this point.
Nolensville goes to Summit. Mirror records. The Knights come in at 6-2. Summit at 2-6. This is a non-region matchup. Summit coming off that big win against Overton, looking to maintain some momentum against a pretty good Nolensville team.
Nolensville's been explosive, and they appear to be just as explosive this year. Summit, this is kind of reminding me of this Brentwood Independence game in the sense you're playing at home, you're playing with some renewed confidence, you're an underdog, but there's never going to be a better opportunity to go up and potentially tackle Nolensville than what you're going to get this Friday.
Absolutely. Spring Hill travels to Tullahoma. The Raiders 1-7 overall, 0-4 in Region 5-5A action. The host Wildcats 5-3, 3-1. Tullahoma trying to, maintain that number 3 spot behind Shelbyville and Lincoln County. Spring Hill, unfortunately, just kind of playing out the string at this point. Tough year for the Raiders.
It's been tough for them, and also tough for them is the fact that Tullahoma's got a lot of confidence after dropping their first 2 games. They won a couple, lost a shootout versus Lincoln County, and then got right back to business. This is a Tullahoma team that their record is 5-3, but it feels like they're playing a little bit better than that record may indicate. So it's a tough draw and will be a very tough assignment for Spring Hill coming up Friday.
Speaking of tough assignments, don't let the classifications fool you. Unbeaten McKenzie, a Class 1A juggernaut, comes into the Brickyard taking on 5-3 Giles County out of Region 4 3A. The Bobcats really challenging themselves with this one.
Yeah, this is a massive measuring stick for Giles County down the stretch. Coach David O'Connor playing another grueling schedule, and they had a weird quirk last year where they only had 9 games. Tried to find an opponent at the 11th hour, couldn't do so, but they found one this year. And lo and behold, it's the Rebels who come in yet again as one of the Class A royalties coming into this showdown. This will be a hard-fought game between 2 really good teams, and I hope whoever wins this game doesn't really hang their head too much because whoever loses this game hangs their head too much because this is a game that is a good test for both teams going into the postseason, but not necessarily needing to put a ton of stock. Yeah, you want to win, but you don't need to put a ton of stock into just outright winning this game Friday.
Absolutely. Region 5 1A action. Huge game. Eagleville coming off that win over Loretto, 5-3 overall, 2-2 in Region 5 1A, taking on region leader Richland, 6-2 overall, 4-0 in league play. That game will be played in Linville Friday night.
Yeah, and this is I mentioned Mount Pleasant had lost their right to overlook teams. Richland was very emotionally fragile the last couple of years. And they saw a playoff berth slip through their fingertips because of that emotional fragility. I think they kind of have removed a lot of those demons this year, but then they stubbed their toe versus Summertown. And it's kind of like McKenzie and Giles County. Did Richland put so much stock into the result of that game that now all of a sudden they're not prepared for a massive region game this Friday? If Richland righted the ship this week, I think they'll be in pretty good shape. But if there's any still lingering effects from Summertown, Eagleville is a dangerous, dangerous team and will give them all they want and then some.
Speaking of Summertown, the Eagles 6-2 overall, 3-2 in Region 5-2A, travel to Hohenwald, taking on the always tough Lewis County Panthers, 5-3 overall, 3-2 in region play.
This is going to be a slobber knocker, folks. This would probably be your game of the week, I think, by the end of the night in terms of closeness of the score. I think both teams are desperate for the win. We just talked about that log jam in the region. And going to Lewis County is never an easy assignment. And Summertown, same deal with the Richland game, though. You don't want to think, oh, man, we beat a really good Richland team. We're kind of back to normal. We got things just the way we want them. You have to be maybe even more prepared now to take on a team the caliber of Lewis County, especially at their place.
Absolutely. Fighting to stay out of or get out of the Region 5-5A cellar is Franklin County, 0-8 overall, 0-4 in region action. They take on visiting Lawrence County. The Wildcats coming in 2-6, 1-4.
This is going to be a tough game for both teams, and this is a game where both teams are eliminated. I mean, it's all about pride, and it's all about, who is the bigger team and who wants it more. And Lawrence County, I have to give them a small lean in that regard. But, I mean, this is high school kids we're talking about. Where are they at? And after kind of seeing their season slip through the fingertips last week, can they get up for this one? It's a long drive over. The cool thing is Franklin County's got an amazing school and a tremendous game day experience. So they will throw all the bells and whistles at Lawrence County. But if Lawrence County puts their head down and plays well, they have a chance to close not only with a win here, but then maybe a win in non-region next week.
This is definitely a where are you mentally and emotionally. Yeah, so that's the slate for Week 10. When we come back here on the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show, we will tell you who we think is going to win. So stay tuned after this.
Hello, I'm Rick Whitley.
And I'm Daniel Pollard from Jones and Lang Sporting Goods. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the many years of support. Since 1966, Jones and Lang has been locally owned and operated and supplying teams from T-ball to college. Stop by and see what we can do for you. We offer a wide variety of services from silk screening and embroidery to our custom trophy and awards department.
We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturday, 9 to noon. Remember, Jones and Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Welcome to JHA Company, your trusted scholastic partner. We continue to serve schools with yearbooks, letter jackets, and graduation regalia. But now we offer so much more. Our school photography division offers high-quality images that capture the spirit and energy of your students and staff. Let us help build your identity, creating a cohesive look that represents your school's values and traditions. Our e-commerce solutions make it easy for schools to manage and sell their branded apparel online. Let's work together to make every school year unforgettable. Visit our website or contact us today to learn more. JHA Company, celebrating achievements, building identities, and creating memories.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
He shoots, and he scores!
Welcome back to the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show presented by 10 Pin Alley Eat, Play, Party and by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans don't let fans drive drunk. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Last week, I correctly predicted 7 of 8 outcomes. Wade correctly predicted 6 of 7 outcomes because he did not predict Giles County's win. If he had been predicting Giles County, he would have been
probably
7-1. I feel pretty sure he would have taken the Bobcats. But at any rate, let's tell you who's going to win these ball games this week. Let's start with Thursday night's matchup between Waverly and Loretto. Again, the Tigers coming in 0-8, 0-5 in Region 5-2A. Loretto 4-4 overall, 3-2 in region play.
You know, props to Waverly. We mentioned again for moving this game kind of on short notice, and they got a team that I think is better than their record indicates. None of that's going to matter. I think Loretto is ticked off after they lost a game that they feel like they definitely should have won at Eagleville. I like the Mustangs to win big Thursday night.
I like the Mustangs to win, and quite likely big as well. Again, we mentioned earlier.
Especially if McDowell goes.
We mentioned in the show earlier, Nicholas McDowell did not play in that Eagleville win. He is expected to play Thursday night, and I feel like his presence will be felt. Yeah. Brentwood traveling to Independence, the Bruins 7-1 overall, 3-0 in Region 6-6A. Independence looking for their third straight victory, trying to get one at home, 2-6 overall, 1-2 in region play.
Like what I've seen out of Independence the last couple of weeks, taking care of business for a team that had not taken care of business up to that point, played a murderer's row of a schedule. They've at least faced some similar competition as Brentwood. Want to pick Independence, but can't pick Independence. I like the Bruins to go in and get the win.
I tell you what, Brentwood is trying to set up a winner-take-all showdown in Week 11 against also undefeated Ravenwood for the Region 6-6A championship. And I think the Bruins hold up their end of the bargain here. I've got the Bruins winning. Columbia Central travels out to Bellevue, taking on James Lawson. Again, the Lions 5-3 overall, coming off that big win in region play against Franklin County last week. James Lawson 2-6.
And this is a sneaky game, given the fact that you see 2-6 from Lawson, and you're thinking, they must not be very good. And their results lately have not been very good. But I think they will keep this game close. And Columbia, I continue to like what I see from them, and especially getting it done in all three phases last week. I think it's an ugly game, but Columbia does win on Friday night.
Yeah, I think this is defense, special teams, and then offense. Kind of feels like the way Columbia Central has gone about its business here of late. If they can get anything out of their offense, again, this one could get ugly. But I think defensively they've got enough to win this one. I like the Lions on the road. Mount Juliet Christian comes to Columbia Academy. Both these teams are at or over 500 overall, but Mount Juliet Christian has yet to win a game in region play. The Saints 4-4 overall, 0-3 in Division 2A middle region action. Columbia Academy coming off of an open date. They are 5-3, 2-1, and their last outing was that 45-7 loss to Nashville Christian.
Bye week maybe helps Columbia Academy to get right mentally. If this had been a back-to-back, I might be inclined to pick Mount Juliet Christian, but at the end of the day, I think the bye week did wonders for Columbia Academy, set them back on the right path. Hopefully they get a nice win. I'm picking the Bulldogs to take it on Friday night.
I'm picking the Bulldogs to take care of business on Friday night because they've had 2 weeks to think about that Nashville Christian loss, and it might be ugly.
If they had lost a close game, I might be more inclined to pick Mount Juliet Christian. But because they got kind of embarrassed a little bit at home on TV, I feel like they have kind of sat with that, to your point, for the last couple of days. And, they're ready to hit somebody on Friday night.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. They're ready to hit somebody. Mount Pleasant travels to Hickman County. The Tigers, again, 5-3 overall, 3-2 in Region 5-2A. Hickman County 2-6, 1-4. But the Bulldogs have won their last 2 games.
Mount Pleasant, as we mentioned, they cannot afford to overlook anybody, and I declared earlier they've lost their right to overlook anybody. I don't know if they overlook Hickman County or not, but I still think they're good enough to beat Hickman County, even if they overlook them slightly. And I think if they do overlook them, it's only going to be by a smidge, but I think Mount Pleasant is desperate to kind of get back to where they were earlier. I think they win an ugly game as well Friday.
You kind of remind me of the line from Pulp Fiction. Your LA rights have been revoked.
Man, they are revoked at this moment because they are going to have to play perfect football the rest of the way just to kind of get back there. I don't think they'll get back to where they were in terms of just really rolling, but they can still make a really, really good run this year if they rededicate themselves, and I think Friday night will be a good chance to do that.
Well, they've got a huge game looming in Week 11, and so this really needs to be a get-right game for Mount Pleasant.
If it's not, major alarm bells.
Yeah, and I think they do. I like the Tigers in this one. Nolensville goes to Summit. The Knights 6-2, the Spartans 2-6.
Hard to pick against Nolensville. They are not as explosive as they have been offensively the last couple of years, but they're still pretty dang good, and they faced some really, really quality opponents thus far. The only way Summit maybe gets this game, Nolensville, I believe, has got Page in next week, so they maybe could be doing the old peek ahead. Mm-hmm. But I think even if they slightly peek ahead, they're still good enough to take care of Summit. I want to pick Summit, but I got to go Nolensville.
I think this game is closer than the records might indicate for that very reason. I think Nolensville could easily get caught peeking ahead at an undefeated Page in Region 6 5A action. I think they wake up in time to take care of business, but I think it's a close one. I like the Knights in the final settlement of it, though. Spring Hill goes to Tullahoma in a Region 5 5A matchup. Again, the Raiders 1-7 overall, 0-4 in region play. Tullahoma 5-3, 3-1.
Spring Hill doesn't have a lot to play for. It would be cool if they could rally the troops and get things going, but I think Tullahoma is playing with a lot of confidence right now. I got to pick the Wildcats in this one.
Spring Hill has lost its last 3. They've scored 14 total points in those 3. I think offensively, the Raiders struggle, and I just think Tullahoma takes care of business at home. Let's see. At the Brickyard, Class 1A Power McKenzie taking on Class 3A perennial playoff contender Giles County. The Rebels coming in undefeated at 8-0, Giles County 5-3.
This should be a fun one tonight, Friday night, rather, as Giles County fills the schedule with a powerhouse opponent. Yes, they're 1A, but man, 3 state championship appearances in a row, winning it all 2 years ago. This will be a big game in the final home game of the regular season for Giles County. And man, it will be rocking Friday night. And if Giles County fans look and just show up and say, oh, they're a 1A team, we should roll, they're going to be in for a rude awakening because McKenzie is a phenomenal team.
That's right. You're not picking this one.
It's a great game to broadcast. Going to be electric, but yeah, no pick for me. I get to stay safe on this one.
It should be a lot of fun, man. So I'm under the gun here. I struggle to pick against Giles County at the Brickyard in particular, and I don't think I'm going to. Give me the Bobcats. Big Region 5-1A matchup as Eagleville travels to Richland. The Eagles coming in 5-3 overall, 2-2 in region play. Richland 6-2, 4-0 atop the league standings. Who do you like?
I got to pick Richland at home. In years past, I probably would pick Eagleville here based on just emotions of the teams. I think Richland has kind of conquered some of that. I think they've grown up even this season as a football team. Give me the Raiders at home, and I think this might be the win that really gets them pointed. They still have dreams of that region championship.
I think this is going to be very similar to the next game we're going to talk about. I think this is going to be a slobber knocker, as you like to say, because Eagleville is nothing if not physical. And I think Richland is well prepared to match that physicality. With that said, as we've said at various points on this very same telecast, I'm not sure Eagleville is ready to defend the entire field the way Richland's offense makes you defend the entire field, with Woodard calling the shots. I like the Raiders in this one, but I think it's going to be an entertaining ball game.
Yeah, I think this and our next one will be the 2 best games of the week. Would not be surprised if Eagleville goes on the road and wins. Not a diss to Richland, but rather a credit to Eagleville if that were to occur, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Region 5-2A, Summertown 6-2, 3-2 goes to Hohenwald, taking on the Lewis County Panthers 5-3, 3-2. And the winner, kind of elevates themselves or keeps themselves in the hunt for a first round home playoff game. The loser kind of puts themselves in danger of missing the playoffs entirely.
Yeah, razor thin margin in this game, and it's going to be a good old-fashioned throwdown in Hohenwald on Friday night. Summertown, as massive as that win was last Friday at Richland, Richland turned the ball over 5 times, and the game still went to overtime. So I think Lewis County squeaks out a win. They squeaked out one versus Mount Pleasant on the road earlier this year. I think maybe they recall some of that and win a very close game versus Summertown at home Friday night.
You know, Lewis County really got my attention with that win at Mount Pleasant.
Man, 8-6.
Yeah. I mean, and just turned Mount Pleasant away over and over again. That team has got some grit to them, and that's certainly not to say that Summertown doesn't. This one could really get down and dirty before it's over with, in a good way. I don't mean, you know, I think this will be a football fan's delight. I like the home team in this one. Give me Lewis County. Lawrence County goes to Franklin County in Region 5-5A action. Again, the Wildcats 2-6 overall, 1-4 in league play. Franklin County looking for their first win of the season, 0-8, 0-4. Unfortunately, this is one of those matchups where neither team has anything more than the final 2 games of the season to play for. But there's something to be said for that.
Yep, and I think we've talked about it a couple times on this program that Coach Marston is able to tap in and get the best out of his guys, or at least get their attention. And I think he'll be able to do that Friday night. Lawrence County is prone to winning, you know, ugly kind of games. And if you're going to win on the road in the region, it's got to be ugly. And I think Lawrence County does somehow grit out a victory Friday night at Franklin County.
Man, I'm going to tell you, I saw this Franklin County game a week ago up here against Columbia Central, and I think they've got the tools to win this ball game. Call me crazy. I'm taking the Rebels in this one. I just think that they have the capability to make a couple of plays, maybe a couple of more plays than Lawrence County does. I like the host Franklin County Rebels here. So that will do it for our Week 10 predictions. That will do it for this week's edition of the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show. Again, we are presented by 10 Pin Alley, Eat, Play, Party, and by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans don't let fans drive drunk. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Be sure to go to our high school football game Friday night. We will see y'all back here next Wednesday at 5.
This is the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show with your hosts Maurice Patton and Wade Neely. Proudly presented each week by our friends at the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans don't let fans drive drunk.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
Hello, I'm Rick Whitley.
And I'm Daniel Pollard from Jones and Lang Sporting Goods. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the many years of support. Since 1966, Jones and Lang.
Football season is grilling season. The Big Green Egg is the perfect grill for everyone. From the backyard cook to the world's most acclaimed chefs. Stop at Tennessee Ace Hardware today and check out our large selection of Big Green Egg grills. It's the perfect grill for any grilling need.